right, of course, we'll look forward to more applause for the ministry, because that means more work will be done before May the 29th. But now another thing that has made Nigerians happy in recent times has been that story that Dangote Refinery will be commissioned on the 22nd of May. That means that it should be operational also before this administration leaves office. And we do know that Dangote has a slot on this. So, I mean, it's their time. Let's use it to discuss more. We have Dumebi here. Dumebi Oluwole is Senior Analyst of Financial Derivatives. Dumebi, good morning. Well, I guess congratulations. You're coming from the other side now. So even though you're not directly in Dangote, but at least you're representing them now. So congratulations. Been a long way coming. And our expectations are very high. In fact, some of us think that once it's commissioned and we give you guys crude, then our petrol will be like, how much? Maybe
let me hear the price that would come from you.
All right, you help me. So paint for us the reality of it, because Dangote, we're expecting it has a processing capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. We do know that importing processed or refined crude digs a very deep hole in the pocket of Nigeria. So a lot of people are hoping that this will, maybe at least will have a major impact. But I mean, we also do know that Dangote is a business that needs to be sustained and everything needs to be balanced. So help us balance it. Okay,
so let's start with what exactly this project will do for Nigeria, the potential benefits that exist for the country. So as you rightly mentioned, Nigeria spends almost about 29% of our imports. Of our revenue goes to the refined petroleum products. Nigeria is spending so much on bringing these products into the country. It's almost as like the government is earning money and we're spending it on a lot of things, most especially refined petroleum products. This is combined with the petrol subsidy, and also what this does for Nigeria, at least in the interim, right? And it's not going to be like a one-off. It's not automatic that just from May 22nd, Nigeria's import expense on petroleum products is going to disappear. So what this means is that there will be a gradual reduction, right, on how much the government will begin to spend on refined petroleum products. Why? Because, like you rightly mentioned, the refinery has the capacity to actually meet local demand. On surface, about 60 million liters of petrol can be gotten from Dangote Refinery per day, and that is almost as high as what Nigeria consumes on a daily basis as well, at least. But from official reports, we see that Nigeria's petrol consumption is like about 40 million liters per day. So meaning that the refinery can actually meet domestic demand and still have enough to supply to other West African countries. And this is because other West African countries like Ghana have also shown interest in purchasing refined petroleum products from Dangote Refinery. So aside from reducing Nigeria's import bill, which is not going to be a one-off, it's a gradual thing. We could see some uptick in our export revenue. Why? Because Dangote Refinery will be servicing not just Nigeria, but also other West African countries. And this just simply means that, like I mentioned before, Nigeria's import bill will reduce, domestic demand will begin to be serviced. But now let's look at the pricing aspect of it. So we've looked at supply. It has the capacity to, provide refined petroleum products to Nigeria, and almost all sectors of the country actually use this. And this is because we have dilapidated electricity, so you have manufacturers and other companies making use of petrol power generators or diesel power generators. So now they could have access to these products almost at a cheaper level. But now, like I mentioned, let us look at the pricing aspects. So
before you go to the pricing aspects,
yes,
let's see Dangote, and then we'll be back to continue.
No problem.
That was just a reminder that Dangote is not just about the oil, they also have that salt. But let's come back to Dumebi here, talking about the refinery. So you were about to talk about the price, yes. If we could expect there to be a change in pricing.
So let's start with the fact that Dangote Refinery is coming at a time when petrol subsidies are supposed to be removed. That's on the backdrop that the federal government does not, backpedal on its decision to.
Yeah, but for now, now it's been suspended. So we do not know which direction the new administration led by President-elect will take.
But the thing is, even the federal government has come out to say that they're still looking at this. It's still something that could happen by the second half of this year, or maybe by the end of the year. So regardless, we're looking at a situation where there's the potential removal of petrol subsidies, and Dangote Refinery is coming into play. So these are two events that are going to definitely impact the pricing of petrol in Nigeria. So on the back of, let's just say petrol subsidies are removed. So we'll look at two scenarios. Let's just say petrol subsidies are removed and petrol subsidies remain. So let's say petrol subsidies are removed. It means that the price of petroleum products are now going to be cost reflective. And this is a win for Dangote. Why? Because now he'll be selling petrol prices, or any refined petroleum product for that matter, at the current market price. So we're going to see the power of demand and supply play here for petrol prices. So what this means is that we could see petrol prices actually coming higher. And the reason why I say this is because there are factors that we need to consider that Dangote has actually, spent on, getting this refinery to come into play. There was a loan of $5 billion taken to make this refinery stand. And this is just, and the cost of the refinery itself is just a little over a third of this amount of money. That cost has to be recouped. And this revenue, or this money, was gotten in dollars, right? So, definitely, although it's not so clear whether Dangote is going to actually sell petroleum products to marketers across the country in foreign currency or in naira, but the likelihood of it being sold in foreign currency to marketers are high. Why? Because Dangote's costs are actually, priced in the US dollar, priced in hard currency. So if that happens, and the reason is just so they can mitigate against foreign exchange rate fluctuations, right? So if that happens, we could see marketers actually reflect this cost into petroleum prices in the country.
And that means we will still see the struggle for FX. Because if the marketers would have to pay Dangote in foreign exchange, in US dollar, they'll still have to source for it.
Exactly. And this is definitely going to reflect into the prices of petroleum products around the country. Then the next thing that we also have to look at are the price, the price regulation and price controls that come into refined petroleum products. Like I said before, even if the government actually decides to, remove petrol subsidy, we won't still see this level of control dissipate overnight, right? So these controls are still going to be there, and the reason why I say that is because as of today, the federal government sets this price for petroleum products. So that's why you see that sometimes marketers, they create artificial scarcity, but just so that they're able to recoup some of their, funds. Now, in this case, what we'll definitely still see is that even though Dangote, decides to, if Dangote is going to definitely sell, the petroleum products and all of that, the prices will still, have to reflect market costs, and it could still be high. And like I said before, they would have to definitely, take into consideration their costs that they've already incurred, and they have to recoup those costs and then get their revenue. And remember that, like you said before, Dangote is in it for business, right? So even though they're going to sell to Nigeria, they would also sell to other countries.
Okay, right? so what about crude? Nigeria does have crude.
Yes,
is Nigeria going to be selling at global market price too? Because that also determines how much Dangote will have to sell it.
Exactly. So I guess the thing is, even if there will definitely be some level of arrangements, right? Because this is something that's going to benefit the country. Dangote Refinery being in Nigeria clearly would, make Nigeria be like a refining hub, right? Like you have with Singapore, you have with Rotterdam, and all of these other, countries that are actually doing the same thing, right? So there will be some level of subsidized rate that Dangote will definitely get, the petroleum product, that's crude oil. But like I said, the federal government will also have to make their money. So they won't sell it, at a ridiculous price that, they won't be able to make a profit as well. But remember, there's also like the crude swap agreements that federal government already has with some other countries. So we could also see things like that happen. But that's not the core of the issue. The core of the issue is how Dangote actually gets this petroleum product, and this is one of the major things that influences the cost that
That's
they incur,
how they get the raw material,
and how they would even transport it to other parts of the country. And this is where issues of pipeline vandalism and all that comes into play. Because of the, defunct, pipeline infrastructure that Nigeria is currently facing today, and the issues of theft and vandalism, what is happening is that Dangote is actually getting crude oil through the sea. So you have vessels, the usual vessel, like the way you'd have with Nigeria, selling crude oil to another country, or you have Nigeria importing. That's exactly what's happening, and that's
so it's
the same
still like the same costs,
exactly,
the same process, like buying crude from outside the country.
Exactly. So that's why I did mention that it's still.
So what does a Nigerian stand to benefit? Because we don't see change in price. We don't see.
So the thing now is, like I mentioned before, it's a gradual thing, right? So we have access to the refined products now. So the price that we would have been experiencing if we remove petrol subsidies, and the government is still selling, buying petrol, from abroad, and we're still spending as much getting of that it would have been as good as getting petrol for more than almost 100% higher than what we're getting it today. But with the fact that the depot is just close by, right? So the transportation costs, it's not going to be as high as getting it from, over the seas from another country. The point is,
even though we are still doing it through the sea.
Yes. But I mean, it's not like getting it from China or something. The point is that there are costs that are definitely going to be recouped over time. This is not a short-term project. It's something that will, in economics, there's something called the lag effect, right? So the period you have between when policies come into play and when they eventually take effect in the economy, we're going to see that happen. So this is something that will eventually trigger a decline in the price of petroleum products for Nigerians.
Okay, Nigerians.
It will definitely have that. It will definitely have that impact. Exactly. It will definitely
Let's hold our breath and look forward to the long-term benefit and not the short one, because a lot of us, have gotten so excited since we learned that by May 22nd that the refinery will be commissioned, and then we just think that petrol will be right there. We're buying it for £1 for
on
a
the flip side, actually, when the government is not spending as much to import these commodities, what it does is that it helps to set aside some extra revenue the government can use to provide other infrastructure for the country, right? So even if we might not immediately see a drastic decline in maybe fuel and all of that, we should see the government, have this revenue to spend on other aspects of the economy.
We should see the government come on account and we used to spend this amount.
Exactly.
And now this is what we spend. This is the difference. This is a fund for it, and things like that. But anyway, thank you so much, Dumebi, for your time this morning. All right, let's take a breather now. When we come back, we do have other conversations for you here on Business Morning. Just stay with us.